In the previous movie, you added the framework of if and for next statements used to manage the movement of customers through a series of stations in a business process. In this movie, we'll fill in the detailed instructions for the if statements, so the process will move customers to the next available station at the appropriate tick of the clock. My sample file is chapter 0303, and you can find it in the chapter 3 folder of your exercise files collection. We don't need any of the information on the sim setup worksheet for this movie, so I'll press Alt F11 to move to the Visual Basic Editor. And here in the ticker routine code module, I can scroll down, and close to the bottom we'll run into the code that manages the ticker. The first code we'll enter adds 1 to customer idle time if the next station is busy. So I'll go down to the comment that indicates where I should enter that code, and that will be objc, and again, this is an object variable representing a customer, period, and then we'll use the idle time property equals itself objc.idletime plus 1, so just an increment of 1. I want to see this information in the immediate window when we run this particular simulation, so I'll type debug.print space, then in quotes customer, followed by a space, and then double quotes, ampersand for concatenation, objc.customer_ID. So in other words, we're identifying the customer by its ID number, ampersand, then double quotes and a space, has been idle for, then a space, double quote, ampersand, and then the property, objc.idletime. Now we can move below the else statement, where we want to move the customer to the next station. So I'll click below there, and I'll type objc.station. So that's the property we'll work with, equals objc.nextStation. So what we're doing is we're assigning the next station to the current station value. Now we need to set the idle property of the station the customer just moved to 0. The customer's there, so the station is not idle. I'll press enter again because I'm making a command that is not directly related to the previous one. So I'll do stations, left parentheses, objc.station .sta is idle equals 0. So the station that the customer just moved to has its idle property set to 0, indicating that it is engaged. Now we need to identify the next station the customer will move to, and that is a particular station's next station property. In that case, station 2 would have a next station property of 3. So that will be objc.nextStation equals stations, then left parentheses, objc.station. So we're identifying the station the customer is currently in, and then the next station. So that's NEXT STA. Next, we need to determine how long the customer will stay in the next station, and that will be a random number. So SNG for single precision floating point, RAND, that's a variable we declared earlier, equals RAND, and open and close parentheses. We'll use that random value to generate the amount of time that the customer will stay in the next station and add it to the current ticker value so we know when the customer will leave. So that will be objc.endTime equals lticker, so the current ticker value, plus, and this is a fairly long command, so application.worksheet function. So we're using a built-in worksheet function directly in VBA, period, norm_inv. So the inverse of the normal distribution, where we give it a value and it gives us the result based on the mean and standard deviation, followed by a left parentheses and SNG rand, comma, and it looks like I'm running out of space, so I will type an underscore, then a space and enter, and space twice. Space underscore space allows you to continue a line of code on the next physical line within your code module. And so I had SNG rand, stations, then left parentheses, objc.station. That's in parentheses, .sta mean. So we're looking at the mean or average processing time property for that station, then a comma. And the last argument is the standard deviation. So I'll just copy stations for the current station that the customer is in. So I've got that there, and then it's STASD, which is the standard deviation property, followed by a right parentheses to close out all the arguments, and enter. And I'll do a backspace and press space a couple times to get the code lined up properly. Now we need to indicate the customer is no longer idle. In other words, they are engaged at a station. So objc.isIdle equals 0. So it is not true that they are idle. And one last thing in this segment is that the customer start time is the current value of the ticker. So objc.startTime equals lticker. All right, now we can scroll down and tell the program what to do when the ticker is the same as the end time. So I'll go under else if objc.c.endTime equals lticker then, and the commands here will be stations, left parentheses, objc.customerID, then a right parentheses, period, sta is idle. So in other words, the station the customer just left equals 1. So the station the customer just left is idle. We also need to mark the customer as idle. So objc.isIdle equals 1 and enter. And finally, we need to set the customer's current station to the next station. In other words, the one they were expecting to move to next. So that is objc.station equals their next station, objc.nextsta. And I'll just scroll down to make sure that I have all the other code that I need, and there it is. So again, just like in the last movie, we've added a lot of code, but we have also made a lot of progress toward having a working simulation.